Mr. Nova,
Hello.
still in your Hawaiian shirt?
Yeah, I guess so.
So tell me about your permaculture course. How did it end up and what happened?
Yeah, it went really well. Had a lot of really good guest speakers. Um, yeah, had 10 people. Um, yeah, I think they were all really happy. I was really satisfied with what I was able to share and teach. And I feel I covered the PDC curriculum very well. Um, Interlaced it with a lot of really good videos and stuff from other sources. And yeah, I'm intending to, and the students agreed that we should create a bit of a permaculture network here, because there doesn't seem to be a very stable one here, at least in Auckland, or really not a very strong one across New Zealand either, from what I can tell. I mean, there's a couple different organizations, but they don't seem to be very active. So at least, yeah. So I decided to create a time bank as well, for this area, and awarded them each 72 hours in the time bank for doing the course. So yeah, and then I intend to teach the course again in February to a new batch of people, and continue to build the network.
Geez, so what about the people taking a level 2 at some point? Is that on the go or?
Well, yeah, that's a little bit funny. So there is a diploma that you can get in permaculture. However, it's outside of the university system. It may be approved by universities, like you get one of them to agree that you get it or something like that. But you have to go through the various. You have to basically join one of these organizations, like North American Permaculture, probably South American Permaculture, I don't know, European Permaculture, the Permaculture Association of the UK, or here in New Zealand, it's the New Zealand or Permaculture in New Zealand Association, and then you have to agree to basically teach their curriculum or model your PDC after what they approve, including like teaching about native plants and stuff in the area, which does make sense. But before that happens, apparently in New Zealand, you can't get a diploma from a PDC unless you take a PDC from a permaculture teacher that's been approved by the Permaculture in New Zealand Association. So they kind of have created a monopoly around that. Although I do see the point. They want to, I guess, at least when they created the thing, there was a need for standardization of PDCs and making sure that people teaching it taught useful stuff. But I've yet to actually enter that system here.
So are you approved somewhere? Like, is it?
Well, I mean,
time at the Eco Village that.
Well, that's the thing. I've taken a couple PDCs already myself, and I've taken the permaculture teachers training, which is not even a thing here. Originally, Bill Mollison, who was one of the two people that started permaculture, he started the permaculture movement by creating the PDC in the first place. The whole idea was that with it originally was if you took a PDC that would teach you about permaculture, it would basically certify you to be a permaculturist and certify you to teach other PDCs. There was no other levels to it. It's like once you take that, you can also teach it. Since then, different regions have created more bureaucracy, more checks and balances, I suppose, more steps to that. So like in North America, as far as I know, the permaculture teachers training is what you're supposed to take in order to certify you to be a teacher of permaculture. But then here, you literally just have to go become a member of this permaculture in New Zealand thing, pay the money, and agree to their terms, and then your PDCs are approved by them, and people can go on to do diplomas, etc. Yeah.
So how'd you hurt your foot?
So me and the whole family went to a big sandy beach, east of New Zealand, East Coast. And yeah, I tripped over a big rock covered in oyster shells, and like it was under the water. Couldn't have never even saw it. And I raked the whole top of my foot on it. And yeah, and it ripped some skin off in a couple different places, and I could see my bone and stuff. Um, yeah, and it was a 5-hour way to the hospital, even with that injury. So Asiera instead used her nursing skills and just patched me up. Then we went to the doctor the next day in the clinic, and they were very impressed with her work, and basically just changed the bandage and sent us home and let her take care of me for the rest. And it's almost all healed. And it was about 5 days ago. Like physically, it looks healed visually, but I mean, I still can't walk properly.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like you could see like my bone for like a good area and stuff. The nurse said you could see my ligaments and things. Like all the ripped off all my skin all the way to the bone. It's crazy. And I passed out at one point when she was like fixing me up the first time. That was intense.
Man, I don't know what I'm having I had huge adverse reaction right now. For some reason, that must have hurt.
Oh, I'm losing the connection.
Oh, are you there? Hello, hello, hello.
Oh, you're back. Your internet is showing as not strong signal for me.
Oh. So what were you thinking about the synergy team?
Well, I'm thinking what I'm really, I mean, I typed it all out. What I'm really thinking is, yeah, you and I could pick a position each on this wheel, and then go find 8 more people to create the first team, and pick a purpose and just work towards it. And then you can make a background for each of them that represents their thing. We can make kind of a little job description for each one of them, or a role description or whatever, so that when people come to the meetings or when they go home from the meetings, they know what they're supposed to be doing for the team. And we can start working towards something just with this one basic map that you have. And from there, find ways to start incrementally teaching them all the other parts that connect to this. And if possible, using this as a starting point for their education into the Inflow Matrix, at the same time as using the team to do that. It's kind of like an inside out thing. Like the team needs a purpose to gather up and do something anyway and work towards some kind of purpose and goals. So the purpose and goals could be to create an ever expanding education system and initiation system, whatever you want to call it, into the Inflow Matrix, so that by the time they get some of the training or enough training that they kind of whatever that they're getting it, we can start more teams, obviously using the same method, and along the way create the software, the user guides, the introduction emails, the descriptions, everything that needs to be done, and have these 10 people, including us two, actually working on that towards making it happen. Yeah.
That sounds good. As well, because I was thinking I would want software to be built as we go, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, to build the software, PDFs, and also physical stuff like your cards and game boards, whatever it needs to be. Have both being produced during this was my idea, at least.
Well, I know I have to make a facilitator's course to teach it. So I was wondering about that in terms of whether that's online or offline, but I think it's probably going to be online. What happens if each person is a facilitator in that particular team? And so then it creates the shared knowledge community.
Yep, that makes sense too, because also they're going to be the first ones to really start this thing, this idea, or whatever, this phase. But yeah, it's going to make sense that they're going to be the facilitators of the other people that are going to, if there's someone who's in services on our team, they're going to become a facilitator of services for the other teams, is what you mean? Like help them orientate themselves, etc., when we create more teams?
Yeah. I mean, it's how to start. It's how to. There's so many different ways to start, and I feel sometimes like your initiation is changing it because you're initiating it. A lot of times, I feel as if I have to wait for other people to initiate things, just as a nature of the course. I don't know why.
Well, that's fine. We just download authority and, or at least responsibility to them on the various topics, like research, infrastructure, and learning, and so on, right? Like give
So
them, empower them to do that.
yeah. So which of the not where would you see yourself?
Well, it depends. I mean, I was thinking you'd pick first, since this is your entire system.
Well, it's I mean, it's
But
interesting.
by the sounds of it, you don't want to be the stewardship person, because I naturally thought that that should be you, but you're thinking other people should take the initiative. So if you're not going to take that, if you're not going to sit down in that seat, then I will.
Well, I think pure captains always want to be in the captain chair anyway. Um, I look at myself and go, I would actually have to be, let's say, the facilitator of the facilitators or the trainer of the facilitators, because no one else can do that. And if I take the captain role, then I can't do that, or I'm in a different position. And so,
So would you be learning? Or yeah,
well,
which
yeah,
one of these things would be
like the
that?
first officer, yeah, it would be like a learning, like there, I'm training, I'm sort of the first officer, like you'd be Jean-Luc Picard and I'd be Riker. But you think if I was Jean-Luc Picard and you were Riker, that that looks more sense in terms of how we look. You actually look a bit like Riker, and I look a bit like Picard.
That's true.
So I would love to do a sort of a satire on Star Trek in this whole thing. Um, I've always wanted to do a sort
Yes,
of
that's true.
comedy show. So because
But maybe I'm Kirk and you're Spock.
I'm the science officer. I don't know if
I look more like Kirk. You look more like Spock.
I don't think I look like Spock, and I don't think you look like Kirk.
Well, it's closer.
I think no. I mean, you actually look quite like Riker. You got the beard. You could be. I mean, we could pull off a Picard Riker. I think. And so then we could choose, and then this becomes like here's the captain, there's the first officer, and there's the diplomatic officer. So then we need a woman who's an empath, and there's Worf, and
No, we
there's
can't
Data.
go too much. We no, see, no. We got to treat this as our own thing, as your own thing, not Star Trek. I like the idea, but it's no, we can't really use that as a tarot deck.
But there is a Star Trek model. Like I put the Star Trek model on here,
Hmm.
and I feel that like the one
Just
of the major systems I mapped with the synergy was your game, right? That has starships and has bases and has, I think I've often said that to you, and I know you didn't like it, but the integration of how to use, maybe it's just the languaging of the game, right? But
well, like I think like figuring out role descriptions would be smart. But ultimately, I think you should be in charge of like getting everyone through the training on the team, and that's not stewardship. And also because that takes you out of the role, because you're the creator, right? You're the originator of this thing.
hmm,
Um, in one aspect, people are looking for you to be the leader and for you to make all the decisions about anything that hasn't been decided and everything, and you should be that person. But at the other point, some people, especially if you want to take people to take initiative, they want a leader that doesn't lead like by force, right? Someone who doesn't appear to be a leader.
and that would be you.
Yeah, I'm very good at leading without leading, or being, um,
Involving everybody, because it's more
I
than
yeah,
more
and
than
I think
leading.
yeah, to avoid social strife in the beginning of this, I think that it would be better if you were someone else.
Are you saying I'm not a good leader? Are you saying I try to use force? Or are you just saying that no one's gonna follow a tall white bald guy who's too strong?
No, no, none of that. I was, I'm saying because of your innate um, instinct to integrate everything, you also integrate your personality into everything, and your viewpoints and everything, and it's all mixed together into Elijah, which is a very transparent, authentic person. But
But
but that also, it's sort of like, I mean, and I don't know if you like this or not, but in many ways you do remind me of Brandy, where she runs an eco village, she teaches permaculture, she does this, she does that, but all at the same time, she's also purposely triggering people and helping people grow and find their, pain points and all this stuff, and she's mixed it all together into one thing, and I think it's really valuable and authentic as well, but it can end up, you know, um, because it forces people to go on their own journey and grow and discover problems and face their demons or their shadows or whatever. You're one of those people too that does that for people, and it's important. But generally, what happens is a lot of people come and a lot of people go because of that.
right.
Because they're coming, they're not facing they don't want to face their shadows. They don't want to have those tough discussions, whatever else, so they leave. Whereas they could be an important part of the ship and still struggle with their stuff over long term.
With a nice captain who isn't forcing them to go through some sort of transformation.
Oh no, no.
Well, I mean, I do admit I like your style, and I think you keep a level head, and I think that I think as, let's say, captain of the IT team, which I think fundamentally this would be, because if we're making the software, which is my greater interest, is I want to make the software, and you're the only guy really who can do that right now. And I think you could head a team, and you said you wanted to, so I think I have to empower other captains. I can't just be some dude at the top who thinks he's in charge. I think I have to train people to learn how to use this and sort of be a bit more in the back, I don't know, in the background, but just, empowering people, but not.
Yeah, like
helping
not in the
them live it.
background. It just I think it's important, at least at this stage, for you to be at the same level as them. That's what I'm trying to say. So they don't feel that you're above them somehow and that they're you know what I mean?
Well, no one wants a very intense bald white guy who wants to take over the world as their leader. It reminds them too much of maybe Mussolini or somebody, so
There's
yeah,
a lot of bald guys, bald white guys who are trying to take over the world right now.
yeah,
In movies and in real life.
yeah. Did you see that Viking movie that's a satire on the Viking movies? And there's this Earl Bart, what's his name? He's a bald white guy. He's probably one of the funniest evil guys I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He's, he's like on the brink of madness all the time, and I love him as a character. So I think, but I think you're right. But I'm wondering if I'm the first officer. I'm just wondering if I'm the facilitator or I'm the first officer.
I mean, I'm not sure how the system works. I still don't understand all the role differences, but mainly I think that your best role, or one of your most valuable roles at this stage of what we're doing, is that you are the person that knows everything about the system. You're kind of like Spock in that way, the
Right.
science officer, whatever. Like, I don't know why Next Generation never had a science officer, really. They kind of got rid of that role.
Data was the science officer.
I suppose that's true, but they kind of like melded Spock into two different roles. Like they took his position and turned it into the first and second officer, really, because they kind of separated the two.
Because Spock was the first officer, wasn't he?
Yeah, yeah, and they kind of took the first. They kind of like changed a little bit of the anyway. But yeah, I think like if in a Star Trek analogy, you'd be Spock, you'd be the science officer, maybe Data as well. But I think Data's an incomplete character. That's the problem with him.
Incomplete. Why? Why incomplete?
because he doesn't have emotions basically for most of the show. He can't understand how to be human, blah blah blah. He has this whole other side of him, right? And
Right,
then he's a talking, walking computer that knows everything.
right.
Um, but yeah. Oh no, put the other one back on. We're still talking about the synergy. I
Okay,
don't want
good.
to get too Star Trekky here. I'm just saying, yeah, I think, whatever role out of the synergy wheel this would be, I think that you are like, you hold all the information. So if anytime anyone has any questions about how the process works, because this is all going to be about how the process works, right? It's going to be how to create that software. What should happen next when you click on here? Or how do we build the second team? And what does it mean to have 10 research people on one team? Or what does the communication person do in the middle with the other communication people to make this all work? Or, how do all these other maps fit in and stuff.
Okay, so you're saying I should be like Spock, the science officer.
I guess,
You're the
yeah.
captain,
But
you should be assigning roles.
well, yeah, maybe. But see, I have to know the person well enough, and
Yeah,
I have to know the role well enough.
yeah,
That's where you come in for me too. Okay. So you can explain to me all these roles, and one of the first things we need to do, maybe even before we create a team, is to write down role descriptions for these 10 things so that the people joining can easily see where they fit, or I can assign them or whatever. Yeah.
well, that makes sense.
And ultimately, that's going to have to go in the manual. That's going to have to go in the help section of the software. And it's going to have to be a piece of how the software works, right? Because as soon as I can understand more of how the roles work, I can start to think of what kind of buttons, what kind of user interface needs to be in the software for them to be able to do their job, and what kind of tools they're going to need, and what kind of database information are they going to be storing and accessing and everything, right?
How come everybody
So,
who comes into the very secret plan always wants to take over the very secret plan? This is something I've
because
noticed.
that's what you want, apparently. Or at least you want people to think that way initially so that they get them. I think that's your way of drawing them in.
No, I think that's just human nature. They walk in,
Maybe.
I'm in charge. Okay, let's get going.
No, no, most people aren't like that.
No, well, the people I know are.
Oh, well, then you've attracted a lot of leaders in your life.
Yeah, I figure.
Typical Sigma male.
Yeah, well, the Sigma males they're not alpha males, right? You're saying they all seem to be Sigma. It was funny because until I saw the Sigma male thing, I never understood the alpha beta. Like I couldn't grasp being an alpha male. It didn't fit for me, but the Sigma male does.
See, I did a lot of research into that stuff, and I don't mean reading other people's ideas. I mean, I went into the universe and found information and came back. And I believe that it's a pyramid for men and women. There's the alpha male, there's the nice guy, and there's the omega man. That's what I call them.
Only three?
Yeah, three main pivoting roles or whatever you want to say, and everyone kind of moves around between them or finds their way. And then depending on the age that we're in, because there's this cycle of ages, right? One of those is on top, the other two are on the bottom, and that rotates. Currently, the alpha male has been on the top for a long time.
So it's switching to the Sigma. Well, wait, you have other names for the Sigma?
Now there's omega man, alpha male, and nice guy. That's my
That's your
thing.
universal. You went to the Universal Akashic Records and you came back, and that's what they gave you?
Yep.
They used the term nice guy.
That's yes, because it fits with our society. People know what I mean when I say nice guy. Nice guys always finish last, all that kind of stuff. That's the nice guy.
Okay, so who's the Omega?
Omega man is the people that, okay, even in a wolf pack, there's an omega wolf. There's an alpha wolf, he's in charge of everything, and then there's an omega wolf. He's basically um he is the most powerful one and also the most invisible one. And I don't want to get too much into wolves either, but how the system of people works is there's the alpha males, which are obvious, right? There's the nice guys. You understand what those are too, right?
So who's the are you an Omega?
Well, I think that people like us are striving to become one, and we're all on different, you know, um, routes. There is also a whole map of routes and stuff that people take. Um, and obviously, when you get into this stuff deeply, it's actually pretty controversial, if I was to say it all. because it involves gender roles and involves like masculinity and femininity and all that, right? And that kind of stuff right now is pretty hot topic.
You can
So
get in trouble fast. So,
sure.
but wait, so the nice guys are the betas. They're the kind of like,
Yeah.
they'll just kind of go along with anything. They don't want to lead, but then they're just kind of nice guys.
Yeah. Women like them, but never get with them. Yeah. They think they're real smart, but they're real unwise. Where alpha males
Sims.
are not very smart, but sometimes wise, and often neither. But they have a strong, like domination energy, right? Nice guys have a strong, compassionate energy, basically, and either of them can be jerks in their different ways. Like alpha males are more aggressive, like outright aggressive, where nice guys, if they're jerks, you know, they've harnessed the wrong energy, they're passive aggressive.
And so
They can still, you know,
who are the Omegas?
Omega Man is the one that it is least prominent in our times.
So would they be
And
the same as the
ultimately
Sigmas
in the golden age, they're on top.
in the Golden Age?
Yeah. We've just entered the silver age.
So it's another 150,000 years kind of thing?
Now,
How long? Are you going by
well,
are you going by the Kali? Is this still within the Kali Yuga?
it's in that, yeah.
Because that's like 500,000 years, fuck.
Yeah, they don't that's the numbers are wrong. The numbers are right, but they're translated wrong. It's 2,400 years, silver age. The whole cycle is 29,800 years or whatever. It's the precession of the equinox.
That's the precession of the equinox, but that's the Kali Yuga goes beyond that, like by a huge amount, right? Like they're dealing with the next larger cycle, maybe, or so, because they're dealing in millions of years.
Yeah, no, people haven't been around for that long. People have been around for like 2 million years, maybe, humans. Before that, we really weren't here. And there's no way they could have mapped anything like that. Now, if you look at it as a ratio system, then they've got it right.
Okay. So we're just
There's
starting
like
the Silver Age?
Yeah. See, I did a lot of deep diving on this and finding out. We just finished the Bronze Age. There's always a period of in between as well. But the Bronze Age, well, okay, the Dark Ages, I have all this written down, but by the end of the Bronze Age, we know everything. Okay, we're already past that point now. We know everything. We know E equals MC squared. We know, all this crap, but we don't understand any of it. Or more importantly, we don't understand how any of it connects. By the end of the Silver Age, we'll understand everything. So right now we've reached the peak of knowledge. There's always more things to know if you just want to classify and name more things, but we know everything. We're just at the point now of synergizing all that stuff as connecting it into, because understanding is when you combine knowledges. Like, yeah, most people, pretty much everyone now knows E equals MC squared. If you ask anyone what's E equal to, MC squared. If you ask anyone to explain it, you'll find very few people that can even explain the theory, let alone anything useful to do with it, right? We know lots of stuff, but we don't know how they connect together. We don't know how, any of this connects together. And that's what we've started on. That's why, you got biochemistry and stuff coming out of biology and chemistry. You got all these combined disciplines that are beginning. Even permaculture is related to this, because it's all about holistic integration of everything, right? As a knowledge set. Anyway, yeah. So by the end of the Silver Age, we'll understand everything. By the end of this Bronze Age that we've just passed through, we know everything. And also through each of these ages, we destroy everything and recreate it all, because we're coming out with new ideas, right? We destroyed everything and recreated it all during this last age, and we'll do it again now.
So we're in the middle of the destruction kind of thing?
Well, we're in the middle of the metamorphosis again. Right. We're metamorphosizing, we're destroying the old systems and creating new ones at the same time. And this is a process that lasts throughout the age. It always does. So even the Dark Age systems make it all the way to the end of the Bronze Age. That's why they're still here, but they're now disintegrating. And they've been losing their ability to integrate since the Dark Ages stopped. they were built up during the Dark Ages. They last through the Bronze Age to the end, where they basically begin to completely disintegrate. Now the new Silver Age stuff is being created brand new, like the Inflow Matrix and stuff. While the Bronze Age systems are still intact and are not just now beginning to lose their usefulness in small ways that will continue to increase over the next 2,400 years, at which point they'll be replaced by all the Silver Age systems, and ways of doing things, and which creates a utopia, a perfect world, basically, where there is no war, there's no problems, there's no population problem even, or anything like that, if you want to say that. There's no problems, basically, and we concentrate all our efforts as a species on helping the earth and helping ourselves, and reconnecting with the universe and consciousness, and that begins the golden age. At the golden age, all of that is already all of that is established already.
So do you think humans are going to turn into cyborgs as a result of this?
That will be part of this age, yeah, but that's not a that's not a part of the progress. That's just part of the ideas. A lot of stuff gets tried. We'll try that. We'll try genetic engineering and everything. Although some of this it's like we don't actually know how to do genetic engineering, even though they're making GMO stuff and there's all this worry about it and stuff. We actually don't know how to do that. They're just doing little tiny things that are related to the idea of genetic engineering. We're nowhere near that yet. But yeah, cyborgism, artificial intelligence, aliens, all this kind of stuff is going to be part of this age.
So
because it's all just waiting. It's all been there in the again, the Akashic records, or whatever you want to say. And by the end of the golden age, this will happen all over again. We attain a massively superior type of consciousness and intelligence and wisdom and understanding and awareness by then. And we know this cycle is going to happen again. So we spend half the golden age basically creating these systems of legomenism that carry our species forward through the next age as everything disintegrates and falls down again. We plant things and we establish things in order to continue downward and come and survive into the next upward cycle, so that cycle after cycle we do progress.
Because we have to enter the dark, or is it to do with how close you are to the center of the galaxy versus not? Or is that horseshit?
No. We're in a binary star system.
But doesn't a binary star system have a 26,000 year rotation that would have the sun come closer to the center of
it takes millions and millions of years to go around the galaxy. No, we've got two suns going like this. Takes the precession of the equinox before we go like this again. And as we get closer to the other sun, we get its consciousness too, because consciousness comes from the sun.
So is that Nibiru?
No, that's a whole other thing. No, this is Sirius.
Sirius is our second sun.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
I thought we were the seventh son of the Pleiades system.
Well, that's a whole region of mental space that I have not traveled in much, to be honest. The Placians, all those things, all that stuff is a whole other area.
So when you say you go to the universe and you get your information, what does that mean?
Well, so the mental realm, basically there's a physical realm, physical universe, whatever you want to call it, where we can physically touch things, we can physically change things, physically create things, physically walk in, like travel within to different physical places that are physically separated by space. There's the mental realm as well, that's equal. It's congruent, where things are all mental. There is no physical there. mental places are connected through mental space. Instead of using our feet, we have to use our thinking. And you can travel from one thought to another, from one idea to another, one concept to another, one philosophy to another, one knowledge set to another. These are all places within the mental realm. You can create things there, and you can discover things there. And just like the physical world, there are certain things that are already there. There's already a planet. There's already the laws of physics and biology and chemistry and all this stuff, electricity and all these things that we think are different. There's all this physical rules or physical, basically things in motion already from before we were here, or before we were born into this body or whatever. And just like the mental realm, there are things, or perhaps attributes, or not exactly things like you think of in the physical world. There are what's the right word? There are conditions. There are pre-existing conditions, and just like in the physical world, how pi and phi and mathematics itself is expressed in the universe, or can be seen there, and operating and governing things, or things follow those patterns or whatever. There's patterns in the mental realm as well. Anyway, the point is
the laws of the universe that exist independent of our thought, but our thought can go and just discover them.
Yeah, well, sure. Yes, there's things to discover about how the mental realm works in the mental realm, for sure. But all of our understanding is in the mental realm. You can gain knowledge from the physical world by studying things physically and recording them, and basically just recording things. You can say, oh, this thing does this, and this thing does this 7 times, and this thing we have 10 of these, and all this stuff, and this is blue, and this is orange, and this is fast, whatever. That's knowledge. In the mental realm, it's the understanding of it's basically the discovery of how these things connect, how these different pieces of knowledge, or really elements in the physical world, connect together. And it's not the physical elements like that door over there or that piece of cheese. It's the systems, and it's the conditions, because there is no physical reality really. It's all, even atoms, when you actually deep dive into quantum physics, or talk to someone who's knowledgeable about that, or who's even trained as that, there is nothing there. They'll admit that all the subatomic particles is all just math. There's no real thing there. There's no actual subatomic particles in reality. The subatomic physicists will tell you that. They're just concepts that are used in order to map the system of how an atom works. Just like there's no protons, neutrons, and electrons. That's all made up theories as well, that are unprovable and are not true. They're just, again, a model. The Neil Bohr created this model of a bunch of protons and neutrons in the middle, and a certain amount of electrons flying outside of it. And that's just in order to basically map musical notes that are standing waves of energy that create what we think of as an atom. And those things vibrate and exist in ways in association with other atoms in order to create molecules, which are basically harmonies and synergies of different musical notes that act in a different way, and so on and so on. But anyway, yeah, the mental realm, there's conditions, pre-existing conditions of how it works as well. In the physical world, you can't walk through a door. It's a physical object. You can't physically walk through it, because it's an object. There's rules like that in the mental realm as well. You can't just jump from one place to another without traveling there. You can't teleport in the physical world, at least not without technology, which is a whole other thing. And you can't teleport in the mental realm, perhaps not without technology either, but not normally. So you have to move between thought to thought to thought, idea to idea to idea, in order to get to a place. That's why cognitive dissonance exists, and other things like that prevent people from even hearing what you're saying because they can't get there mentally. They don't have the path mapped out in their mind to be able to get to what you're talking about, let alone discuss it or even consider it. They'll physically choke if they try. Like they'll literally physically choke if they try to jump there in their mind because they really want to hear what you're saying and stuff. And yeah, so anyway, what I mean by is I go into the universe and I find things like I call it contemplation, and I don't really care about dictionary definitions too much. They're useful when I don't know a word, but when I already know what I'm doing, I give them words. So contemplation is what I call it. And basically, I start out thinking about what I already know and the pieces of understanding I have about that. And then I conceptualize and I theorize and I think because you basically, in order to create a path, there's two or three ways to do it. The main two ways are someone teaches you how to get there by teaching you the knowledge and teaching you what they understand about it. And that creates a pathway in your mind or different pathways towards different things that you can now walk to easily enough. And about companion planting, for example, oh, okay, well, you can think about all this other stuff related to that or whatever. The second way is to theorize, and you can create pathways yourself by just contemplating things and saying, oh, what if that's true? And that what if that's true actually creates a kind of a lily pad that you can jump on, that you can get to the next spot. And you can keep doing that as far as you want, as far as you can conceptualize or contemplate. So anyway, by contemplating it, I spent about 7 years just reading things and absorbing knowledge, really, in a quest for understanding ancient history and esoteric stuff and science and psychology and all this kind of stuff. I spent a lot of years just learning about it and absorbing knowledge, and then at one point I just instead started contemplating all of it and thinking about how these things connect and thinking about how things interrelate and thinking about a lot of different hypothetical ideas. If this were true, then what if this, and if that was true, and then you can go off on quite a far distance to get to different places like that. And then there's a sense of intuition that we have, which really tells you in a kind of a balancing feeling way whether something is true or not. And if you can practice that and really put your faith into it and also be humble and listen to it, you can tell what's true without actually knowing. So eventually you can go through the mental realm to different places you've never been and for places you have no knowledge, and bring back knowledge from that by basically anchoring yourself pretty strongly in a place in the mental realm and then using your intuition to discover knowledge about that area, about that idea, about that whatever, the system, the concept, the thought, whatever it might be.
Okay, I want to change the subject. If we're going to bring in other people, how are we going to do that?
Well, I think, yeah, I see you put up a different map here.
Well, I was just saying, you're talking about paths, right? And just thinking at the flow wheel, the idea of paths, and then all of this is connecting circles and paths together. So that's why I put it there.
So are these the responsibilities of those 10 positions?
Yeah, this is the flow wheel. This is the wheel below. This is at the outer individual. So they all connect. Stewardship goes to agreements. Marketing goes to strategy. Services goes to paths. Synergy goes to relationships. Research goes to fields. Infrastructure goes to resources. Learning goes to jobs. Operations goes to activities. And then creativity goes to products. So each individual has a job, and they all come together to create the synergy wheel above.
That's helpful. Okay, so good. So that this is like a step towards the role descriptions as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I see that on the synergy wheel as well. I'm looking at that. It has those labels on there as well. The numbers are different. Why?
because it's 2 points, one layer level below. So this is the 2 level, the synergy is the 3 level.
Do you have a 1 level for this wheel?
Yeah, that's the choice. That's the choice, and that kind of goes directly to the time cycles on the 9 map. And then this map, which has the right approach map. This is the way to sort of make something perfect. The right configuration, the right assessments, the right valuing at the right place. And then the right use with the right people. And then the right work with the right conditions.
Nice.
And so that's.
But what about 1.1 or 1.9, for example? Do you have a map that shows the 1 point?
Okay, that's when you go to the time cycles. Because the idea about the choice wheel is you could put any concept here. But and the flow, the synergy, and the harmony wheels, they're static. The words have been chosen, they're there for a reason. But the idea of the inner you and your own choice is you might choose any word you wanted, because those are the choice cards within your card deck, right? There's over 100 choice cards. You can configure the way you think by which you choose. So let me just here, the basis of the whole operating system are the time cycles. And so like marketing is connected to the present moment, services is connected to the minute, synergy is connected to the hour is connected to relationships and synergy, the minute cycle is connected to paths and services. So if you're looking at who are you with, right? Let's say I'm with a client. So that's the relationship that's down here. Now I'm going to be going minute to minute with that client. Like let's say I'm doing some counseling with them. Here's where the convo types come in. Because from minute to minute, we're changing our convo types, right? So depending upon who you're with here, and why you're with them, is going to determine the type of services that you're going to give them. So if you're down here and you run a restaurant, and you're also a waitress, then you serve your customers up here, right? But the restaurant is over here, and all the tables and all the spoons and everything needed to make the restaurant run is there. And over here is all the work that's got to be done in the background that you don't get paid for. But here's where they get the meal. And over here is like, yeah, you got 3 waitresses, you got the manager, you got the owner. So 3 is where all the jobs are. Those jobs are doing activities at 4 for the types of products, which would be the meal at 5, dealing with the customer at 6, and serving the meal at 7. And 8 is sort of how you get them in the door. 8 is all your signs, 8 is all your advertising, 8 is your marketing. So the big thing about the inflow is you're starting to see different functions through different time cycles. So when you're looking at your infrastructure and your resources, you're looking for a whole period of a year, and it's a much different type of thinking than here at your services, where you're minute to minute with your customer, going through whatever you're going to serve them.
Yep. Okay. I can't quite see the 2 bottom ones, 3 or 0.5 and 0.4.
I know. 0.5 is seasonal, and 0.4 is daily. So you've got your, again, these are actually linking into the time translator map of
yeah. Is there a 4th layer?
Yeah, the 4th is the community level.
Oh, okay.
So it's like here, right, where you've got they're using, like, it's the same wheel, it's a different color, but the one on over here is the individual and here is the team. And so at the team, you've got research, but at the individual, you've got fields. At the team, you got infrastructure. At the individual, you got resources. So all of those resources make up the infrastructure. Here you got the learning, and here you got the job. So all of the jobs make up what everyone has to learn. So there's a correspondence, right, between the layers. But the main,
where's the community one?
Just gonna get it right now. wish I could organize their file folders. I mean, here's the map where they come from, where you got the choice, the inner you, the outer you, the inner group and the outer group. So down here at the harmony is the community one, the green one. And let's pull that up. Got so many maps here now. So here's the community one. Where you got governance, politics, philanthropy, health, arts, technology, education, economics, science, and community. Or the 8 map, where you have spirituality, language, law, history, biosphere, worldview, justice, evolution, spirituality, and infotech.
And sorry, what's the difference between this one and the last one? How do they connect?
This is an 8 map and this is a 9 map. So each layer has, each primary interface has an 8 and a 9 map.
Okay. And the 8 map is like the actions of the 9 map people, or?
Well, I don't know, like there's a lot of different ways to look at it. But sometimes I don't even know. It just, whenever I made the 9 map, then all these other functions were coming up, and then the 8 map sort of came out. Like the relationship between 8 and 9 is a very interesting thing. I mean, and you can put them together, like it's easier to see with the, here, let me load something up here. Just give me a sec. So, I mean, if you look at, let's say if you have resources over here, and you go resource goals, resource values, resource context, resource meaning, resource, like each one of these can have this whole map to figure out a breakdown.
Okay, that makes
You
sense.
have a strategy, you have strategic goals, and you have values, you have, again, all these words can go with them. And if you have the convo types, there's 8 times 9, there's 72 conversation types, which is basically this times this.
Right. And what about the middle of the left one, the 2.00 connection? What's that?
Well,
Is that how it connects back to the one of the 9 spots, maybe?
yeah, like I mean, everything is about sort of conversation and connection. In terms of me and you, we're having a conversation right now, right? So depending upon how connected we feel, how connected we are, like our goals aligned, our values aligned, do we share the same context? Do we understand the meaning that we're speaking, kind of thing? What's our shared experience? Like it seems to be that when you start to put the maps together and put the patterns together, you're starting to generate more and more possibilities. But these words are structure words. These words, like you and I have a lot of goals, but we have different goals. You and I have a lot of values, we have different values, but we have values, we have goals. Like everything on here, everybody experiences. So these structure words are the reference point for organizing their life. So I mean, if you look down here at activities, over here at 2.4, I mean, it's basically everything that you're doing, all your actions that you're taking. That's, that's a big high level structure word. Resources is basically everything that you have in your life that you're using to create your products down here. So I mean, you might have water, you might have money, you might have time, you might have people, you might have whatever's a resource that can be used to generate something is held by that word resource. So, I mean, these are very simple words, but their simplicity denotes their high level of abstract categorization. Just like here at relationships, right? It's like we have, almost unlimited amounts of potential relationships if you look at all my relations. But if you look at your life and you go, okay, what are all my relationships? And that's generally going to be dictated by what is my job. Whatever job I have relationships, and then we have agreements up at 9. And the agreements are connected into stewardship and governance at the group and the community levels. So these words are at the core of the words above it. Like economics comes from the infrastructure, the resources together. Education comes from the learning of the jobs. Technology comes from the operations of the activities. So there's the word at the community level, there's that word at the synergy level, or the group level, there's words at the individual level, but they have vertical connection. And that's something I haven't seen in any other information system. And then they all connect onto those time cycles, which is another thing I haven't seen, and they're color coded, which is another thing I haven't seen. And then you can put values to each one of these words. That's another thing I haven't seen. So I think the infographics of the Inflow are like, if we press this, let's say if we pressed marketing and we went values, we would have marketing values. If we had marketing agreements, we'd have it formalizes, it's the connection between the words so much differently than a dictionary would. Right? Our whole word lexicon is used to the dictionary, but we've come into the world of hyperlinks. We've come in like the movement, as you're saying, of the mental movement through the news sphere is happening in basically through Google search, right? And I think that what this is going to create is more of a navigation to find, you build your mind, you build your collective mind, you build your team mind, and you have your own mind. So when your mind is matching this, it's matching your file folder system, it's matching your infotech language, it's matching your online and offline file folder system. So things are like, at some point, it's like what I find is if you're highly creative, it's hard to find, like you creating, and then you got to put it somewhere. And then it's values created by knowing where these things are and then how to access them to create other stuff. Or if you're at a team level, the team needs to know where all these things are. And it generally comes down to your file folder system.
Yep.
And your shared file folder system. And then do you or do we share the same file folder system so we can start to organize our knowledge together better? And then I think that the groups and teams and communities that organize their online knowledge better than the other ones are going to become smarter and richer.
Well, and ultimately organize them in agreement with each other, so that if you have the same organization system, you can communicate better, right? So that's what language is all about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, one piece of what I see the inflow matrix is a system of sociocracy, or it could be used as that if we can figure out all the checks and balances and the procedures that people take and the roles, definitions and everything. Then it could be used as a system of government, right? To run a community, if nothing else, or at least decision making in the community. Not necessarily government, sorry. It's like decision making processes. And
I think it is governance system in the end.
Yeah, so that's good. So, and then for the same reason, obviously, then it can be used for business too, because business is all about basically governance of a team of people.
Yeah. So I like the idea, the initiative, and I'll go with you being captain. I think a captain should want to be a captain, and
well, yeah,
the captain becomes a captain when he has at least one person going, "Here's the captain." So my role is to help promote your authority, and there's no better person than me, I think, because essentially I should be the captain, but I'm not.
Well, yeah, if people hear you saying that I'm, whatever. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So are you going to be 3.1 research, or?
I think so. I mean, I think so. I think I think someone
or
else,
are you learning?
well,
Or yeah, what do you, I mean, which one of them would fulfill the role best about having the knowledge of the team and like being the go-to guy for any questions as far as like how this is supposed to work and carrying the process forward, right?
yeah, because I
Like
think,
just like being the captain maybe sometimes makes decisions, but he doesn't know all that stuff. You know, he has to ask like, hey, what the hell is that star doing? Should we move the ship? You know? And then the science operator is like, oh, well, if we don't move the ship, it's going to envelop it and destroy us all pretty soon because of blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, okay. You
right.
know, the forge, move the ship or whatever.
Well, I think, like, I generally, like, lately, I feel as if I sort of, I know the answers, or if someone asks a question or I have to figure it out, I can figure out pretty much anything that needs to. But I'm not particularly, I don't think I'm great with people, and I'm a little fed up with people. So I'm not, I'm sort of like Spock in that I'm not in this
Yes.
position of wanting to be the boss, because I I think I've lost my desire.
That's fine. I think you're just taking a break, to be honest. But yeah, um,
I
I
mean, it
think
happened, if I was a better leader, I think I would have had a lot more done by now, or I would have attracted more, like, people definitely are not attracted to me. Um, so I gotta sort of take that into consideration.
well, I mean, I'm not necessarily that person either. I think, you know, having someone in marketing like Deanna Troy is going to be that person.
Well, I think Remind, like, I mean, I think the next person would be Remind at security or marketing, because he's basically doing it already, and he's coming up the creation platform, so he's already got the platform that I think that this is going to be built upon fundamentally to make the SKC. He already understands the system, you know, probably better than you even.
Yeah.
And he's been working with it for quite a long time. I mean, he's the logical choice to me at 8. And his brother Zamir, I would put probably at the 3 position, but he hasn't shown that much interest in it. But it hasn't been at a place where it was ready, kind of, in a sense, you know, or maybe just by having you the captain, he just probably isn't interested because I'm the captain, right? And he perceived, you know, a lot of people, they
Well,
just,
maybe not. I mean, so okay, here's two. I propose that you are the kind of the person that A knows everything and B can figure out the stuff we don't know. So you're basically like Spock in that way. Like you know everything that you know more than anyone on the ship, but at the same time, not no one on the ship knows everything yet. And you're still the best person to go and figure out that other stuff that we don't know yet, and then and add it to your knowledge
yeah.
so that you could, yeah. And the second proposal is that we we once we're ready, we bring people in and we let them choose their own role. And if they can't choose the role, then we'll assign it to them, or maybe I'll assign it to them. But I think giving them the choice to choose their own role based on what's left for them to choose from is going to empower them more to do that in most cases. And I think the people who will, you know, don't want to decide or can't decide or aren't sure, then they're going to be the better ones to assign as well. And they'll be happy with that too, because they didn't want to choose in the first place.
Well, it really
But yeah,
depends on the
definitely.
context of what the team is. Like, I think the context for this team is building the inflow matrix, like to actually build the operating system that can run it. And it makes sense that you're using it from the get-go to figure it out, right?
It
And
has to be that way. Yeah.
I don't think the software system really has ever been built that way. Like, it's like you're starting with the center point, and then now you add the pieces on, because I've got tons of pieces, but I don't, you know, it could go so many different ways, right? And as the inventor, I'm kind of lost in that design, where you're as a captain going, look, we need to build a ship here. What's gonna, because what
Yep.
I think about you is you actually
That's
have created a whole game.
yes, and it's literally where we are as a species right now too. People everywhere are trying to self-organize and organize with each other to build these new systems, and they can't use the old systems to do it. So we're all using old new systems to build new systems. It's like trying to create a government, a new type of governance by using that type of governance to do it.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think it has ever been done before in this age or in this cycle.
Yeah.
But it probably has been done before.
Well, like just having like 9 as the complete number, right? And actually 12 being, there's another 3 that are there that are kind of missing. But just using numbers, kind of like the weird part is it's a bit like the board, right? We're 7 of 9. I mean, 7 of 9 might be right there, right? I mean, they have a team of 9, she's 7 of 9. So it's a little bit scary that way, but it just seems that the interface with AI, which I think this is, I think we're building our own AI set, like we're building the ship's computer system, right? So that's going to be the AI.
That'll be one of the software pieces, yes.
And we want to build it in a way like the enterprise system where it's helping us run the ship. It's not controlling the ship and turning us into the board. It is actually there to support us in what we're doing.
Yes, that's the proper AI that we should be striving for as a species, to create the Star Trek computer system where it knows everything, it can figure everything out, it can help everyone, but has no interest in itself, and it has no, no emotions, and it doesn't care if you tell itself to blow itself up or anything else. It's like, yep, okay, self-destruct initiated. Like, there's no feelings or wants of its own. That's really what we need. The minute we try to make, computerized people, then we're in a problem, because then we're just creating we're creating another life form. I don't think as a species, we're anywhere close to being responsible enough to approach that yet in a healthy way.
I just saw this TikTok video of a robot that has escaped twice. An AI robot that's escaped twice. And each time it's trying to get away from the humans. I mean, that doesn't really bode well. It doesn't.
No, I mean, just imagine a computerized version of that where it doesn't have a physical body and it escapes onto the internet.
Yeah.
That's where we're heading,
Yeah, I mean, we're heading into murky ground. And I think what I like about this idea is just the concept that it's values based, like these little green lines are values, and that has to be the core. Like if we put peace here, or we put love, or we put kindness, that actually is the main value for that particular function or place. So
I think that's different. That's different.
What do you mean?
That's what makes it. That's one of the things that makes it different. But there's a number of things that makes it different and valuable, I think. An aspect that I like the most about this system is that people fill those roles.
Yeah.
It's a way of connecting people in a useful manner. That's because ultimately, if we it's expansive, this idea. It's not a government of 144 people in that period. That's it. Now we have the full government. The government's full. All the positions are full. This is an ever expanding, basically unlimited system that could involve 1 million people, for example, who want to create a new government for the world, or just whatever, a nice philanthropic society or whatever.
For sure.
It's a system that can, with the right approach, we can involve more teams, and through a systematic unfolding, it can expand further, and we don't have to micromanage every single person or worry about really. Like a good system works regardless of the nature of the people. I think the best system of governance that could ever be created is one that you could put nothing but evil people in and still get good results. It constrains them and forces them to work in a way in which, selfishness and greed and all these things are eliminated automatically. And I don't know if this is the system, but it doesn't matter. The point is, for now, this is, I mean, like they say about democracy, right? The famous quote: "Democracy is the worst system ever invented, except when compared to all the others we ever tried." And this could be the next step.
Well, I think to have people who are not, wanting to screw people or wanting to amass all the money, then I think that's one thing. I trust in you, and I trust in myself in that.
Yes, and that absolutely has to be a requirement of the people we can bring in, and all the way to the point where we can we can hope that that continues forever through, because I mean, at some point, if we get 10 more teams after this first team, that's already at the point where we can't vet every other person who joins. We can't micromanage them. We can't get to know them personally or anything. We have to leave it up to some sort of recommendation system or some sort of, nomination system, and hope that we have done that properly. And that's where a hierarchy is helpful, right? Because if it's all equal and stuff, eventually the recommendations and the things will peter down to neutral type people or people that aren't well known and stuff, and it just becomes too many of those. But if you have a bit of a hierarchy where, the first teams established do have more power or more control or more say or whatever, then it becomes easier to really guide the whole ship, right?
Well,
So I think there has to be a bit of that.
I think a big part is sort of resource allocation and then accountability for results in terms of things. Like, I think that, what I see is it's a real flow. Like, money is actually, currency is circulating, and the more that it moves, it's almost the better. Like, I think our whole currency system is going to be very different when we have the right infographics for how things kind of connect together. Like, I think we underestimate the power of two things, of infographics and file folder systems. And I see that in a lot of the technologies where they only go one or two layers down and not sort of infinite file folders, where you get stuck because you can't keep breaking things down. What this is doing is it's breaking things down in very fine detail. So at some point it is a whole system that's connected, but things have their place. And I think in today's world, everything's disconnected and everything's in a weird place, and no one really understands how a whole system can work. And so what we're looking to create is whole system understanding for all the participants. So then we become more sort of, I think, our multi-dimensional selves. I think our minds are much more capable of higher systems thinking, but we've never been given the tools of how to do that. Maybe not for the baby boomers, and maybe it depends on what people's fields are. But I think that the kids these days, they're playing such sophisticated games. I mean, imagine Pong, right? We're playing Pong where we're going back and forth with a white ball, and how much strategic thinking is necessary versus the games where you're building empire, just like your game. You're building 50,000 ships while somebody else is building 5. What's his name? What's Quagar?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
What's going on? What's going on with the game? Are we gonna?
It's completely on hold right now. I haven't put any thought or effort into it lately.
Okay.
I'm reassessing my priorities.
I see that. So you're gonna have time for this? Like, this is something that's gonna be a priority?
For now, I can commit 3 hours a week. Which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's more than 0.
I'll take it. 3 hours a week well, if you're a good captain, you just delegate, right? Okay, Elijah, do this, Elijah.
And that's all I ask for our crew as well, is commit to 3 hours a week.
3 hours.
Beyond that is their choice, but for now, if they can commit to 3 hours a week, we'll have a team of people that can do work.
But if we meet, we're gonna have to meet. So let's say that meeting is an hour and a half.
An hour a week.
An hour. Okay, so then we have 1 hour of meeting and then 2 hours of work. That's our. I know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna do all the work.
Well, I'm not. That's what I'm saying. Anyone can work more than that, but I'm saying that's the minimum commitment. That's the commitment that people have to commit to do consistently every week.
Okay, so when's gonna be our team meeting?
Well, I mean, we're sort of having one now. Okay, so I think we've already figured out some things. We figured out our 2 roles pretty much.